Have you heard the phrase one camera, one lens? Pros and cons of using only one camera. Pros and cons of using only one lens. I'll cover 7 possible solutions which may give you the best of both worlds, and 2 recent examples from my own photography. So solution number 1, carry one camera and one zoom lens. Now you could say this is cheating, and it is, but if you think of a zoom lens in terms of multiple prime lenses rather than one big lens, I find it much more useful personally to use it as strict prime lenses but have it all in one body. So if, for example, you use the Leica 35-70R lens that I reviewed recently, I use that as a 35mm prime, a 50mm prime and a 70mm prime. I still zoom with my feet, but it gives me the options of 3 focal length compositions all within one lens, meaning I only need one lens. Solution number 2, you can use one camera, one lens if you pick the right lens for the task in hand. So let's say you're a street photographer and you love 28mm. As long as you take a 28mm lens on one camera, you should be safe for the whole day. A great example of this is maybe shooting with the Leica Q or the Leica Q2 with a fixed 28mm lens. Number 3, if you're doing client work, you could carry 2 cameras, one lens. So that means you've got a backup camera, and say a great solution for this could be something like the digital Leica CL, which is a really compact camera. You can have that in the bottom of your rucksack, never have to think about it. However, if your main camera breaks, you do have a solution, so you are always covered. You still get the benefits of only using one camera because you'll only ever be using one camera with your one lens. It just gives you peace of mind. Option number 4, for any of you hybrid shooters, you could carry 2 cameras, one lens, but instead of carrying 2 digital, you could carry 1 film, 1 digital, and then you can pre-visualize with your digital camera and then shoot any important photos with your film camera, or however you work. At least it gives you the option to shoot some film and some digital and still have minimum kit by only carrying 1 lens. However, what is better than that solution is carry 2 cameras, 2 lenses. Now we can break this down into various scenarios. You could carry 2 digital bodies, 2 lenses. That allows you to never take the lens off the body, meaning you're not going to introduce the chance of dust, and you can have 2 focal lengths on 2 bodies, so you can shoot 1 wide and say 1 short telephoto. That should cover maybe everything that you need. You could carry 1 digital setup, 1 film setup. I did that this morning and that works quite well. That means you can shoot film and digital side by side without having to change lenses, and it gives you the benefit of, if you're shooting with say a Leica M6 film camera and say a Leica M10, both Leica M mount cameras, you could have a 35 or 28mm on one body and say a 50mm on the second body, and then that allows you to carry minimum kit, but also it lets you shoot 28mm on film and digital and 50mm on film and digital, and you can just swap the lenses over partway through the day if you feel the need, but at least you have that option. And lastly, on this point, you could shoot 2 film bodies with 2 lenses. So this gives you the same benefits as having 2 digital bodies. The reason you would shoot 2 film bodies is you could have black and white in one camera, color in the other camera, and then you'd still have the option to swap lenses if you use 2 cameras from the same system. So 2 Nikon F cameras, 2 Leica M cameras, 2 Leica R cameras, or whatever camera you enjoy shooting. Solution number 6, if you predominantly shoot with one lens, say a 50mm or 35mm 80% of the time, but you want to be covered for those rainy day situations, one advantage of using small cameras and small lenses is you can still carry a really small compact bag setup, but in the bottom of that bag you could carry say 2 or 3 small additional prime lenses. That means you could be covered for say wide angle, normal and telephoto. Common trios of lenses are often the 50mm as your main lens, and then perhaps a 90mm as a long and a 28 as a wide, or perhaps a 35 as your main lens, 75 as a long, 21 as your wide. Those 2 combinations are quite common, but obviously you can have any combination to suit your own taste. If you're looking for specific examples, you could use Leica 3 cameras, which are really small. Here I've got a 25, a 50 and a 90mm lens. If you want to shoot Leica M mount, the Leica CL film camera is the smallest option. Here I've got a 40mm, 90mm and 28mm. And you could even carry 4 lenses that are that small, and also add say a 21mm for example. And then for you Nikon F shooters, you can still use small lenses. My preferred options are the 40mm Voigtlander, 20mm Voigtlander and 28mm Voigtlander. Solution number 7, this could be the best way to shoot one camera, one lens, although it's not something I really do myself. If you shoot with a high megapixel camera such as the Leica SL2, Leica M10R or the Leica Q2, you may find that the best lens to use as your one lens for all situations is the 28mm lens or 35mm lens. So if a camera's got a 40 megapixel sensor, Even if you crop from 28mm into 50mm, that still gives you a 20 megapixel photo, which is not so different from a 24 megapixel sensor. So this brings me on to the Leica Q2. If you shoot JPEG, this may be the best camera because you can shoot 50mm, 35mm and 20mm in camera as JPEG, and it's a fast lens, so you get the shallow depth field and it gives you macro. And then if you shoot RAW, yes, it's going to be a bit of a pain because you recrop your photo in post. Personally, I tried to crop in camera, but if there was one camera, one lens situation, this may be actually better than I've ever really considered. So I guess well done Leica for the Leica Q2. And solution number 8 is a bonus solution. I mentioned earlier in the video that you could carry the Leica CL camera as a second body if you're carrying 2 cameras. What I didn't mention is if you carry a Leica CL and a Leica, say, M10 with one lens, you get the benefit of getting 2 lenses from one lens, because the Leica CL is a crop sensor camera and obviously the Leica M10 and M cameras are full frame cameras. So if you carry one small 35mm lens, you could shoot it as a 35mm on your M10, and then if you need something longer, you can shoot it on the Leica CL as an equivalent 50mm lens. That's a really great way of getting 2 focal lengths from any lens. And so with all those points covered, let me just go into more detail on 2 recent examples. Example number 1, the German photographer that I mentioned earlier in the video. He flew to the UK 1 week ago to meet me for one of my Saturday Leica photography workshops in London, and he brought with him 3 camera bodies, 4 lenses. He had the Leica M10 monochrome, he had a Leica SL2, and he had a Leica MA, I believe it was. Basically 1 film option and then 2 digital options. And then for those bodies, he had the Leica 35 Apo, he had the Leica 50 Apo, he had the Leica Noctilux 75mm f1.2, and he had the Leica SL 24 to 90mm zoom lens. I then took a similar kit. I used a Leica M240, Leica SL and Leica M3, and I took a Leica M mount 35mm lens, 50mm lens and 75mm lens, so we could shoot side by side SL versus SL, we could shoot M versus M, just so we were seeing the same thing. And then with my full day workshops, we'll have 1 model in the morning, 1 model in the afternoon. So in the morning, because we had all this equipment to play with, we were changing quite regularly. Say for example, we'll be shooting with the Leica M and then we're using a 50mm lens, and then I'd say, oh, maybe this would look better with the Leica SL, so we'd swap to the SL bodies and use the SL lenses or an M lens on the Leica SL. And so in the morning we were swapping back and forth quite a lot between the M bodies and the SL bodies. It definitely wasn't a bad thing because it allowed me to answer any questions that you may have had using the M system and the SL system. However, in the afternoon we started using the Leica SL bodies and the 75mm lenses, and we shot the same lens on the same body for the full shoot with the same model, so roughly 3 hours on location. And what this demonstrated was you can get such a range of photos using 1 camera, 1 lens. So even with a lens such as a 75mm lens, you can step back if you work in a space where you're able to step back and still get a selection of shots. First you can shoot at eye level, then you can get low and shoot up at the model, then you can get high and shoot down at the model, you can shoot towards the sun, you can shoot with the sun, you can shoot portrait orientation, you can shoot landscape orientation, you can do environmental portraits, you can do full body, full height portraits, 3/4 length portraits, half body or sitting portraits, headshots, photos from the back of the model, photos from the side, photos from the front, shooting black and white, and of course shooting colour as well. And even only with 1 camera, 1 lens, we were able to get a variety of images and we didn't lose any time with swapping equipment. What makes this perhaps even more amusing is the fact that up to the end of the day we said goodbye. I got back on the train and I thought, I'm just missing an amazing opportunity to shoot with the 35 Apo, the 50 Apo, and also the amazing Noctilux 1.2 lens. And I'm like, oh. Example number 2, this morning I went out here in Tenerife and my idea was to take minimum equipment to try this whole 1 camera, 1 lens thing. So I took 1 digital camera with 1 lens and I took 1 film camera with 1 lens. Where did it go wrong? It went wrong because I only had 1 lens and the 1 lens was 60mm. 60mm is not wide enough for a walkabout lens. Well, it wasn't for me in the way I saw the world in Tenerife. Obviously it depends on the individual and on the location. Luckily I had the 35mm lens on the Leica SL, and so I could shoot all the images I missed on film on digital. The problem was I want to shoot them on film because film is important to me and digital isn't. I now have to revisit the same locations and pray for the same weather with a different lens, and I'll come on to it in a second, different film to get the shots that I missed today. Number one, I had the wrong lens for many photos. I needed a 35mm or potentially 28mm. I then saw opportunities where there was really vivid colour photos which I was missing out on by shooting black and white. So if I'd had 2 film cameras and 2 film stocks with me and 2 different lenses, I could have pretty much shot everything that I saw and come back happy and never need to revisit that place again. So for me personally, 1 camera, 1 lens doesn't really work. Just putting my hands up, maybe that means I'm not a good photographer. I probably could manage with 2 bodies and 1 zoom lens, the 35-70, and that allows me to shoot black and white plus colour and everything between 35-70. So I'm still learning on this photography journey as I go, probably the same as some of you guys. So in summary, I think a 1 camera, 1 lens setup is perfect for street photography, family photos, fun photos, anything like that. For photos where you're working with a client, such as wedding photography, portraits, I would always carry at least a second camera as a backup. And then for travel photography, I'd still carry a second camera as a backup. If you know where you're going to be shooting and the weather conditions, you could easily shoot only 1 film stock and only 1 lens. It's just making sure you take the right lens and the right film stock for that day. I think small cameras with a set of perhaps 3 prime lenses covers you for all scenarios, even if you shoot 1 lens most of the time, for things like travel or for when you don't know what you're going to be photographing. As always, a massive thank you to my awesome patrons, and a special thank you to Robert and Zoltan, who kindly sent me $50 via PayPal. Bye.